Have you ever wanted to be at home playing your tube amp, but it's just way too loud? You can't seem to get the balance of good tone and it not jumping to a million decibels just by the tiniest little turn of a knob. But today, we're gonna fix that.
As you can see, our box is turned all the way down. The amp is not on standby, it's fully on. And when we start turning this knob, we go from no sound whatsoever to a easy, nice, and slow adjustment of our volume, all from running this, just one pot, through our effects loop.
Right now, I have this on the clean setting. If this turned all the way down, we can crank everything. Normally, this would blow the roof off of a small apartment like I live in, but we have no volume. But once we start messing with our volume controller, dirty channel, I'll even show you this with my controller turned all the way down, no sound. Turn off my effects loop. With all that said, today we'll be building this volume control box, a second one for my brother since he's also an enjoyer of tube amps, and I'm going to take you along with me and show you just how we make these. Parts you'll need to make this volume controller is a pedal box, 2 jacks, a pot, and 2 wires. Really nothing extreme going into this. It's very simple and a very simple schematic to follow. The things we'll need to aid us in making this is a stepper bit for cutting the box, solder, flux, then I have a tinning agent, of course the soldering iron. I have some new tips I'm going to replace that burnt out one with. Q-tips for spreading the flux, wire strippers, sockets, and a wrench or a driver. Something that's gonna help a lot with wiring this up is something to hold our components together. A lot of people just use cardboard, preferably a box, because when you use just a piece of cardboard like this and you have your component sitting in there, if it's sitting on a table, it just pushes itself back out. I'm just gonna be using a second box in my case to prop it up. And the part that really matters, the schematic or wiring diagram. It's extremely easy to follow. 2 jacks in, out, and a pot, and 2 wires. I will not be using red and black. As you saw, I will have green as my positive and gray as my negative. As far as pot values go, this is a 250. You can do 100, you can do 250, you can do 500 if you want. It doesn't necessarily matter. I would say 250 or 100 is more common when it comes to pedals. You can really do whatever you want. To get started, I'm gonna go ahead and plug my soldering iron in and let that heat up. While that's heating up, I'm gonna go ahead and set out my components. Nice and easy, in, out. I'm gonna go ahead and trim some off the end of these wires and shorten it to where we need it. So we got our wire stripped, we got our flux, our tinning agent, because I suck at soldering. Forewarning, these solders might be disgusting, but they will hold. We will get them to hold, and it's gonna work out. We have our solder and our Q-tips for the flux. Take our first wire, just twist all these strands together. I'm gonna shorten it down a little bit. Let's see what kind of length I need. I'm gonna give myself a little bit longer than what I actually need, just so that when this gets put in the box, if something needs to turn or flex, it has some give and can move. So this tiny little baby boy, strip that. Oop. Give it a twist. Go ahead and take some flux and put it on our lug that we're working on right now. And I'm going to tin my soldering iron. And see that that is nice and tinned. Nice and shiny, that's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and get my wire in here. Now if I can get my solder open. Ooh. We have our solder, we have our tinned hot and ready iron. We're gonna go ahead and make our first connection.
Just like that, we have our first connection. Nice and solid. I'm gonna fill it in a little more, just because I'm feeling a little daring. I'm trying to make sure I don't get my fat head too far into this, but there we go. Nice, shiny, solid connection. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing over here on our lug. I should have pointed out I'm using stereo jacks, but I'm not wiring this up in a stereo sort of way. So that's why there's multiple lugs on each of these jacks, which does look different than the schematic I drew out. But all you need to know is that if you look at the schematic, the lug that is colored in black is going to your shaft, and the lug that is just coming off the side is going to your tip. So what we're soldering this to now would be the tip. Feed it in here. And come with my solder. First I want to make sure that this is nice and warm. Check that joint, and it's looking pretty good. I would like to get some on this bottom side though. So I'm going to put this at a very awkward angle. I still would like to have a little bit more in there, because these have pretty big lug holes on them. There we go. Nice strong connections. I just now noticed that I swapped my wire colors around, which is fine, but now my gray is my positive and my green is my negative. That was a goober move on my part, but it's all good. It's still gonna work. Everything's gonna be happy. I am gonna be happy. But just like before, I'm gonna measure this out and give myself some extra. Then I'm gonna strip it, twist my ends up, go ahead and get my hand close to the soldering iron, flux up that lug, flux up this lug on the jack that is going to. I'm going to put my wire in. Forget that to stay right there. Re-tinning my tip. Grab my solder and do this next connection. And got another nice solid joint right here. We got both of our positives on our pot, and now we're going to take it and get it onto our lug on our jack. It's looking good. Ooh. Well, that connection just got a little weird. This is why having a board helps, even though I'm not using it for this part. It'd be nice if I had, I don't need it though because I don't do this a lot, but they have holders with little clips that are made to move around like a bionicle kinda and hold things exactly where you want them to be. But since I'm not a solder guy, I obviously don't have one of those. But we have both of our positive wires on now. And start with our negative wire, which originally was the positive, but it's now the negative. And get this where we need it to be. So this one is going to loop off of our last lug to our shaft of this one, and then around back to the shaft of our other one. So like before, I'm gonna give myself a little bit extra. Snip it off, boom, and go ahead and strip it. Ooh, that's stripped down kind of far, but let's see if I can't squeeze my, see if I can't move my sleeve down. I do have other wire I can use for this. It would be a new color. Excellent. I'm gonna say that one's a goner. Twisting my ends again. So now we're gonna go ahead and attach our first negative wire. But before, we'll clean off. And re-tin it. Re-tinned. And get a little flux. Wire and solder, just like the other millions of times. That one's really good. That's actually probably the best one so far. That one's looking hella nice. That one's pretty Gucci. So now we only have one more wire to go. New green wire. Like I said, guys, this is a super easy schematic, and it's gonna help so much with living in an apartment or being at home where you wanna play your tube amp with the cranked sound at a whisper quiet volume if you need to. You know the drill. Trim the wire, check. Giving myself a little extra slack. Stripping, twisting. Got our little L. Flux up our lugs. Shaboing boing in the hole. Retinning. Soldered. So now, the last connection we gotta do is take this wire we just put on and link it into our ground that we have over here. I probably should have tied this in with the wire that's on there. Ooh. And then put them in together and soldered them. But I'm kind of dumb, and electronics really aren't my thing. Well, I mean, like, I like electronics, but like making them and doing this kind of shit. The most I've done with soldering is installing pickups and whatnot, placing them. But anyways, no! Let's see if I can't tack it on first. Boom, now that's connected, and we got our whole shaboing boing going. Next, we're going to prepare our box to drill holes in it with our stepper bit. This is our pedal box. First, before we do that, we're going to take one of our nuts, the nut, off the pot, and a nut off of our jack. We're going to use that to see how far on the stepper bit we need going for each. So I'm just going to take this marker and just go ahead and mark that step. And this will, for the most part, just rub off and come off with alcohol if you're really worried about it. And then the one for the jacks is still pretty visible on this from last time I did it. 2 marks right here and here. Now we're going to try to make dots on our top and bottom and the face of our pedal box. Try to get them as centered as possible. That right there is pretty center. So now just the ends. So we got our dots for the ends and our center. So now we can go ahead and drill these out to the depth that we want. Again, perfect. I'm gonna test that one and go one more bigger. And we're good. So now we're on the home stretch. We can go ahead and assemble this. I'm gonna go ahead and put my temperature in first. Bend my leads back a little bit just to make sure we're not grounding out on anything. Washer. Lighten nut. I'm just gonna hand tighten that for now. So now that we have everything in place, we can go ahead and take our sockets and tighten down our jacks and our pot. So now that we're all nice and tight, we're going to put our back plate on. Now that we're done with that, I would suggest drawing some arrows or in and out on your box unless you're going to paint it, because these do only work correctly one way. So I have it on the bottom and top in case that gets marked off. Same on the first one that I made. How this volume box works is through our effects loop of our amplifier. If you've ever used effects loop before, your send is gonna go into your input side, and your receive is gonna go into your output side. And that's all you need. And this just stays in your effects loop. It's always on, obviously. We don't have a toggle. And it just sits there. We have our newly built box here. I'm gonna go ahead and hook this up and see if we did good. I would say that's working. I hope you found this video useful. These are very easy and a lot of fun to make. And if you live in somewhere like an apartment, a small home, a neighborhood, if the house is really tight, I don't know what your situation is, but if you live somewhere where volume is an issue and you're tired of playing your tube amp at a small volume where you don't get the tube saturation and the tone and the warmth that you want and it's sounding muddy, these are a great way to fix that. You can play very quietly. If you use maybe a nicer pot, you could probably get down to whisper quiet and not have to worry about people being mad at you or your significant other wondering why you're always playing so loud, or if you live in an apartment having your neighbors knock on your door. It's amazing how quiet I can take this big amp through a 4x12 and get it so quiet and sound so good still without having to balance my volume knob in between muddy and way too loud. So thank you guys for watching along. These are definitely something to have in your home studio or your home practice space if you just want the most quality with the least amount of volume. Thank you for watching.